Okay, everybody, here we are back in the mix, ready to discover and uncover the unique waters within the well of potential. In our first episode, we talked about hormesis, finding the sweet spot. What have been those subtleties and how you've modulated within that bell curve of overexposure and underexposure? In our next episode, we talked about the components of the nervous system, the stress-calm continuum, and then anchored it with a reflection of where do you feel stressed, where do you feel calm, and what's delightful in your life. And of course, the application and the power of delight moving us forward with meaning, and what's fulfilling and how we can capture the beauty within our lives. So my question in our opening for today's conversation is, what's possible for you? Here we are in 2023, modern humans, and there's so much influence we have going on in our lives. As we talked about with the nervous system, there's this ability to tune inward. Interoception, we call that. There's also the opportunity to connect to our external worlds, exteroception. So it's inward focus and external focus. Now we have so much happening. We're bombarded with stimulus all the time. As we talked about, sensation is a direct component within the nervous system, but we can only process so many things at once. The brain is very unique in that way. Mother Nature developed that it's honing in and picking up on certain things. Just like right now, as you're listening to me, if I were to say, bring your attention to your feet, there's a change of perception. And maybe now you recognize, oh, I feel like my feet are a little colder, or I can feel those warm fuzzy socks, or maybe you're barefoot and you feel the texture of the floor. So it's very deliberate in terms of how we're using our attention. And that is really its own unique art and something we'll be discussing and exploring today. Social media, responsibilities, influence of what's happening in our external world is considered robbing us of our attention all the time. It's become an attention and consumption economy. The way that ads and things are popping up, I've even personally recognized in seeing how some of the social media shifts have come that those punchy, short 5-second clips are what is captivating. And it gets us going and we want to consume more. So in an opening inquiry for everybody, head over to the settings on your iPhone and just look at what and where you're using your attention on your phone. I know I'm personally guilty of using my Instagram. It's something that I enjoy to go on. There's things that we can learn indeed, ways we can connect. So I'm not knocking technology here, but that we're taking a step back to get more deliberate. Where in your life do you have a lofty goal, as we like to say at Edge Theory Labs? What is it that you're striving for right now? Now, what's getting in the way of that? We have this ability, as we've talked about with the nervous system, to be skillful with the stress-calm continuum, to engage with alertness and focus when necessary, so that we get ourselves focused and primed, ready for what it is that we're about to undertake, a physical workout, a project, a presentation, a bout of learning, and then we want to be able to get calm. How important it is to shift into calm so that we ingrain the cognitive reps that we took, we entrain the memory, the recall, so that then we can go and execute again with our next task. In addition to the coordinated movements, the learning of the physiology to pick up a new skill or to get more powerful with our exercise. If you're an athlete or operating at an elite level, working that seesaw is so important that you're getting the deliberate dose of adrenaline, healthy dose of cortisol to put you in the zone. But also then what happens after? We want to move into calm. And as we've talked about in our hormesis episode, things like breath work, cold water immersion, sauna, even other tools we'll unpack and explore in further episodes like non-sleep deep rest or deliberately spacing out. These are powerful ways to move the seesaw into that calm state, which again is reinforcing the learning cognitively and the movements physiologically. So Given this context of, wow, we're in the modern world, we can so easily get pulled into these things. My question to you is, where is your attention being utilized? Where are you spending your attention? If we were to consider it to be like a bank, we had an attentional bandwidth, attentional bank, that we're investing our attention, we're spending our attention on certain things. So given your lofty goal, given what you're striving for, where are you placing your attention in regards to that goal? And where are we subconsciously or involuntarily, maybe it's just a certain pattern we're in, a behavior, a pattern loop, as we've talked about within neuroplasticity. It starts to get comfortable. It starts to become the path we walk. And wow, I'm using my attention so much on these thoughts or these certain things that happened in the past, or utilizing technology, my social media. I get caught in the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden 4 hours go by and I feel like I wasn't actually spending my attention or investing my attention on my big dream, on what's possible for me in my life. So that's the opening inquiry for this conversation today, as we delve further into the sequencing, that attention is your directed awareness, and it steers your energy. It steers your personal reality. As we sift it all together and recognizing all those neural components of the nervous system we've talked about, house your personality, house your identity. So if your directed attention, your awareness, is steering that energy, then it's impacting all those subtle mechanisms within the nervous system, our brain and our body. Now, the next layer here is intentionality. It's something we love to explore at Edge Theory Labs in terms of the sequencing of events that we're doing within our fitness regimens, within our training, within how we set up and work together as a team on certain projects, how we engage with meetings. There's intentionality embedded within the ecosystem. Now, the principle of intentionality really empowers us and builds this model of prediction, if you will, or explanation into our human behavior. It's based on belief, of value, of what our internal core principles are, of what it is we stand for in our life, or of what we want to have, what we want to be for, what's possible. And it provides structure for us to be able to then complete an internal model within our mind. The power of the mind is pure imagination. So when we can create this framework, we have agency. We're empowered within ourselves simply through this word, intentionality. We bring more intentionality into our life. We have a trajectory. We put our attention into what we're doing more deliberately. So what I like to say is how that intentionality becomes the opportunity to take responsibility for where we want to place our attention, and also what we want to be for, what we're stepping into and calling in from the infinite future, the landscape of pure possibility. And it's really then the art of paying attention, the art of creating accountability for yourself within your life, so that we can be on purpose, do things in purpose, not just on purpose, but we're in purpose because there's intentionality in the way we're setting it up. For example, you could just jump right into the ice bath. We know that there's physiological mechanisms, psychological mechanisms that we'll receive benefit from. You can get in, let the process happen. But what happens, or what's possible, if we bring more intentionality into a sequence of events, of setting ourselves up for focus, how we direct our attention, again, pre-cooling before we get in the ice bath? What happens when we get in the tub and therein after the tub? How can you bring more intentionality into the process of your practice so that it's moving you towards deliberate directed attention, set and focused on what it is that you're striving for, what it is you want to create in your life, so that you, if you will, disrupt business as usual. Our attention, we get caught in those loops, those ruts. Are we being intentional? So if there are moments that you know you're going to invest your attention on, for example, Instagram, then can you make it an intentional bout of focus, of attention, of awareness to how you are engaging with a platform like that or a medium, how you're engaging with the way you eat your food, the intentionality in the way that you create your lifestyle design is almost a devotional path we walk. It opens up so much into feeling the sense of fulfillment and more meaning in our life. There's value. There is a sense of belief that's embedded. And that moves us. That's that space of delight. Because we're not just going through the motions. You see somebody at the gym that's putting intentionality into their workout. You see the heart in their movement. That spirit energy, it moves you. That's the infinite energy. You just kind of go through the motions. You can tell there's not as much of a beckoning flame of, hey, this is the direction I'm going. And in that sense, I'm deliberate with my attention, my awareness, and it helps string it all together. Now, the last theme here to explore is then reinforcement. Because we can get started with something new, get excited. You see it all the time on Instagram. Oh, the 30-day challenge, or 30 days of healthy habits, and it's the short term. There's excitement, there's of course community support, which is a beautiful layer. We know that within the hormesis framework, that sense of optimism opens us up to seeing that possibility of ourselves feeling more fit, breaking the loops of depression, feeling less anxiety, feeling more fulfillment, experiencing that pure power of confidence within ourselves. It's amazing to see. But where do we fall off? And that's where the word reinforcement, or this perspective of reinforcement, is so important. How many of us have started something and then experienced some resistance, and then we had the fall off? We gave up. We didn't want to keep going because we recognize, wow, this is an undertaking. And we have the ideas of get rich quick or get fit quick or whatever it may be, that we're going to be able to experience all of a sudden this compounding, drastic rocketing of achievement. But for those that have been in the game, that are invested and clear in what their purpose, of what their mission, what they're striving for, what their beliefs and values are, solid foundation, that you know it's for the long run. So reinforcement to help ingrain and entrain walking the path for the long run, so that we don't end up then falling into that trap of falling off path. Or how do we then reorient ourselves? And that's what the reinforcement is all about. It's really about dopamine. Dopamine is a molecule of more. It wants us to feel like we're on the right path. It's connected within mechanisms for movement. And it also requires this sense of effort. We can get dopamine from easy things, where our attention's pulling us to social media and we're getting dopamine to some degree there. And it doesn't require anything. We just are hanging out on the couch, our attention's bouncing from all these little places, and we're getting these short little glimpses of dopamine. And the conundrum here is that that's reinforcing behaviors. The reinforcement, the dopamine, if you will, is what is creating those ruts like we talked about in our last episode. It starts to make us feel like this is the way. So how can we then disrupt the drifts, make the shifts, and help then lay the trajectory, to trailblaze the way and reinforce that this is the energy I put into every day, and it opens up the possibility of what that path is forward for me. So reinforcement is really about effort and disrupting business as usual, examining our patterns of where our attention's going, discerning where we're not being intentional within that, given what we're calling in from the infinite future, and then taking the steps. So the takeaway today is really an inquiry again. You're welcome to close your eyes. You're welcome to take some notes here. Put these questions at the top of your pages and really get honest with yourself. Call yourself out. Be accountable and hold that high standard for, wow, where am I using attentional bandwidth? Where am I investing my attention? Is it in the things that are fulfilling and meaningful, that are moving you towards what you're striving for in life as the big lofty goal? Or is it being used up for 5 hours on Instagram? For everybody listening, if we were to actually do that audit and look, be like, okay, this is what I want to be for in life. Well, how many hours on Instagram are we spending? Or how much attention are we using up being concerned about what other people think? Or what other people are doing? What happened in the past? How can we then be able to surrender, to reorient and shift our attention? What is using your attentional bandwidth? The next question is, where can we be more intentional in our day? Maybe that's a feeling of devotion to your craft, to the path that you're carving, to the path that you're trailblazing. In what way can you be more intentional with the way that you make your coffee? Start with the small things. Often when we're feeling overwhelmed, there's so many different things happening on. So focus on what we can control. Take the actionable step, the art of making your bed. How can we be intentional with the way that you fluff the pillows? Again, these are just little examples to consider. But if we're looking at the high level thing, wow, intentional with my whole life, well, let's start with the small things. I love the process of being intentional with how I start my day. Waking up, getting the morning light, turning on my chiller on my edge tub and just getting the water starting to churn because I know I'm going to be getting in. And then I go and I start to make my coffee. I have this ritual and routine that I've started that is encompassed with an intentionality. And it lays the foundation for my day to build with energy, with inspiration, with a sense of wisdom and intuition, because the practices I do connect me deeper to myself. And that intentional framework anchors me into that every day. And I repeat those steps because I've broken them down into small, actionable chunks that are reinforcing to staying on my path, to remembering my why, of being of service, of opening up the possibilities of people realizing their potential and sharing these gifts of simple principles and actionable practices. So I hope that you find this framework of attention, intentionality, and reinforcement to be stimulating for you as you start to sift through the unique layers and landscapes of your life and how you can apply this sense of deliberateness and discipline and devotion to creating and carving out your own unique path. Let's continue to explore. Stoked to see you next time.